In the late 2000s and early 2010s, Dropbox was everywhere. They perfected consumer-friendly file syncing even before Google, Microsoft, or Apple truly took it seriously. They were first to make it seamless for everyday users. They had billions in valuation. They had millions of users. And then, in less than 3 years, the tech giants walked in and crushed them. How does the company that created an entire industry end up fighting for survival? The answer reveals one of the most brutal truths about tech. Being first means absolutely nothing if you can't defend your territory. And here's what makes this even more fascinating. Dropbox saw it coming. They knew the giants were entering their space. They had time to pivot. They had the money. They had the users. But they made 3 catastrophic mistakes that turned their billion-dollar company into what experts now call a harvest strategy. That's business speak for we're giving up on growth and just milking what's left. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how trillion-dollar companies weaponize their ecosystems to destroy competitors. You'll see why Dropbox's attempts to fight back actually made things worse, and you'll learn the brutal difference between building a product and building a defensible business. Let's go back to 2007. The world before Dropbox was chaos. You'd save a presentation to a USB drive at work, plug it into your laptop at home, and watch it corrupt. Hours of work gone. Or you'd email files to yourself, except they were too large. Gmail would reject them. You'd compress, send, download, decompress, only to realize you sent the wrong version. Physical hard drives cost $200 and died the moment you unplugged wrong. The technology existed to solve this, but nobody had made it seamless. Enter Dropbox. Their pitch was dead simple. What if all your files just existed everywhere automatically? No thinking, no manual transfers, no USB drives, just pure, effortless synchronization across every device you own. And here's the genius part. They didn't charge you per device. They didn't make you buy expensive hardware. They turned storage into a service, a subscription. Early paid plans were closer to $10 a month for 50 gigabytes, with higher tiers costing significantly more. The more storage they owned, the cheaper each gigabyte became. Economies of scale working in their favor. They launched with a demo at a tech conference in 2008. Nothing fancy, just a guy showing how a file saved on his laptop instantly appeared on his phone. The room went silent. Then sign-ups exploded. Within 5 years, Dropbox was worth $4 billion. They weren't just a product. They were the default expectation for how cloud storage should work. Every tech company, every startup, every freelancer, everyone was using Dropbox. But in 2011, everything changed. Apple announced iCloud in 2011. Not as a separate app, but built into every iPhone and Mac. 5 gigabytes, free. Dropbox couldn't compete with free and already installed. Then Google launched Drive with 15 free gigabytes across Gmail, Photos, and Drive. Microsoft followed with OneDrive, bundled into Office 365 with 1 terabyte included. Dropbox's core feature vanished overnight. Their viral growth died. And this is where we need to pause and understand what actually killed Dropbox. It wasn't that their product got worse, it's that storage became a commodity. Think about it like oil or rice or sugar. Once something becomes a commodity, there's very little to differentiate one provider from another beyond price. Sure, Dropbox had slightly better performance here, better security there, but those advantages were marginal, and the tech giants could match them while charging less. But here's the kicker. Microsoft and Google weren't even trying to make money from storage. Storage was a loss leader. That's a product you sell cheap or even at a loss just to get customers in the door. Google lures you in with 15 free gigabytes. Then they upsell you to their Gemini plan with AI features and absurd amounts of storage. Microsoft gives you a terabyte with Office 365, but that subscription costs way more than just storage would. They're making money on everything else. Storage is just bait. Dropbox didn't have that luxury. Storage was the product, not a footnote. The entire business model. And they were competing against companies that could afford to give storage away because they made billions elsewhere. Dropbox even admitted this to investors in their filings. Quote, "Some of these competitors have inherent advantages developing products and services that more tightly integrate with their software and hardware platforms." Translation? We can't win on price. We can't win on integration. We're screwed unless we evolve. So they tried. Around 2015, Dropbox launched Dropbox Paper, a collaborative document editor meant to compete with Google Docs and Microsoft Word. It was actually pretty good, with a clean interface, fast performance, and less friction than Google Docs for real-time collaboration. But Dropbox didn't commit. Insiders say the founders failed to see Paper's potential. They positioned it as a note-taking tool like Evernote, not a full productivity suite. They didn't invest aggressively, and they didn't market it as a Google Docs killer. Meanwhile, Notion and Obsidian were adding features that made Paper look outdated. The moment passed. Paper never came close to the adoption of Dropbox's original storage product. Dropbox also tried buying their way into new markets. They acquired HelloSign for $230 million to get into e-signatures and document workflows. Smart move, right? If storage is a commodity, sell the services around the files. They bought Mailbox, an email client, for $100 million. They bought Carousel, a photo management app. Both had real user bases, real potential for a Dropbox ecosystem. And then they shut both of them down, completely. Users who loved these products were furious. Dropbox was trying to build an ecosystem, and they kept abandoning the pieces before they could connect. Why? Because they failed to achieve horizontal integration. That's when apps connect and work together seamlessly. Google has it. Gmail, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Calendar, everything talks to everything. Microsoft has it. Word, Excel, Teams, Outlook. One ecosystem. Dropbox had storage, Paper, HelloSign, and a bunch of half-baked integrations that didn't feel like one unified platform. Users kept Dropbox for file sync and used Google or Microsoft for literally everything else. And eventually they stopped using Dropbox for storage too. But there was a bigger problem underneath all of this. A strategic mistake that would define Dropbox's decline. Dropbox was a consumer product. Their identity, their brand, their entire focus was on individual users. But the real money in productivity software? Enterprise, business-to-business sales. That's where Microsoft and Google were making billions. There was another company in Dropbox's space called Box. You've probably never heard of them. Box went all in on enterprise, custom integrations for big corporations, long sales cycles, complex admin controls. 95% of Box's revenue came from enterprise clients. Dropbox looked at that path and hesitated. Going enterprise meant hiring massive sales teams. It meant 6-month sales cycles or longer. It meant building custom features for individual clients. Permissions, admin consoles, compliance tools, all the boring, unglamorous stuff that makes software harder to use. Dropbox's team didn't want to become Box. They believed in clean, simple user experiences. They thought enterprise would ruin that, so they stayed consumer-focused, hoping to compete on design and simple. But here's the problem. They didn't go all in on consumer either. They didn't build the horizontal ecosystem. They didn't create a productivity suite that could replace Google or Microsoft. They were stuck in the middle. No enterprise solutions, but also no compelling consumer ecosystem. In hindsight, this was catastrophic. While Dropbox hesitated, Microsoft and Google swept up every major corporate client with their fully integrated productivity suites. The enterprise market? Gone. Now, if you're finding value in this breakdown, hit that subscribe button. I analyze billion-dollar failures like this every week, and understanding these patterns will change how you see every tech company's strategy. The insights coming up get even more brutal. So where is Dropbox now? Let's look at the numbers, because they tell a brutal story. From 2020 to 2024, Dropbox's revenue grew from $2 billion to $2.5 billion. That's about 4.5% growth per year. Sounds okay, right? Except they didn't grow by getting new customers. For 3 straight years, their paying user count stayed flat, stuck between 17 and 18 million, completely flatlined. They grew revenue by squeezing more money out of existing customers, price increases, upsells, that's it. Zero new user growth is a death sentence for a tech company. It means the market has moved on, and Dropbox knows it. Here's the most damning evidence. Since 2020, Dropbox has spent nearly $4 billion buying back their own stock. In late 2024 alone, they borrowed $2 billion just to buy back more shares. Why would a company borrow money to buy its own stock? Because they don't see better places to invest that money. They don't see growth opportunities, so they're returning cash to shareholders while they still can. This is called a harvest strategy. You stop planting seeds for the future. You stop betting on growth. Instead, you extract every last dollar of profit from what you already built while the market slowly forgets about you. Dropbox isn't trying to win anymore. They're just trying to stay profitable while the world moves on. Now here's the lesson. In business, there are only 2 ways to win. Be the cheapest or be different. Dropbox couldn't be the cheapest. How could they? They were competing against trillion-dollar giants giving storage away for free as part of massive ecosystems. So they had to be different. They had to offer something unique that Google and Microsoft couldn't replicate. They tried with paper. They fumbled it. They tried with acquisitions. They shut them down. They tried to pivot to enterprise. Too late. They had the chance to go all in on building a real productivity ecosystem, and they hesitated. Now they're stuck! Still alive, still profitable, but irrelevant. Is Dropbox a bad product? No, it works fine. But the market doesn't care about fine when better, cheaper, more integrated options exist everywhere. Here's what's wild. Dropbox was first. They had the users, they had the money, they had time to adapt, and they still lost. Because being first doesn't matter if you can't defend your position. And you can't defend your position if you're selling a commodity that tech giants can give away for free while making billions on everything else. The story of Dropbox isn't about a bad product. It's about the ruthless economics of competing against companies that play a completely different game. A game where your core business is their loss leader, where your entire revenue stream is their marketing expense. Here's the real lesson that'll stick with you long after this video ends. In tech, survival isn't about being good at what you do. It's about being defensible. And you can't defend a commodity against competitors who give it away for free while printing money on everything else. Dropbox did everything right. They built a product millions loved. They scaled to billions in revenue. They saw threats coming and tried to adapt, and they still lost. Because some battles are unwinnable from the start. Some games are rigged before you even sit down at the table. That's the game Dropbox was playing. A game where the rules were written to destroy companies like them before they ever had a chance. If this breakdown changed how you see business strategy, there's another video on the channel about companies that got crushed by platform shifts they never saw coming. The patterns are eerily similar. Watch it here.